And we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt, episode 210. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned. We will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
And we're back. We're back for another episode of our lunchtime Behind the ToolBelt that we just recently converted over to. We have a lovely guest with us, April Hall from Storm Restoration Contractor Summit, 2024, Frisco, Texas. My, oh my, I'm having issues here. But April Hall, how are you? How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Staying busy. It's a new year. SRC is right around the corner next week. So it's kind of like running a marathon over the last, few weeks up until the event.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the pressure or the stress rather that you put on yourself, especially right after the holidays and stuff, and trying to stay focused and making sure that this thing comes to fruition for you. So how are you dealing with that?
I've been doing it for a long time. So you just kind of roll with the punches. You always get people in last minute. I had 2 sponsors come in about less than an hour ago, and I was able to figure out how to fit them in. And then yesterday night. So usually I have everything cut off beforehand, but yeah, everybody's kind of last minute. So it's always a little bit stressful, but it all works out.
Right on. So what is your key goal for each event that you host? Like, what is your mission? What's your goal?
Each year I like to change up the event, and really it's based on what contractors want to hear. So, I always hear back from attendees, and, it's usually the top 2 things that they get out of it is no matter how long they've been in the industry, whether it's like maybe a couple years to like 15, 20 years, I always hear about like, wow, that content was so great. I had no idea I was going to learn that much. Right. So they're able to take back things and implement them right away. I'm very big about value from the stage. And the second thing is the whole networking, seeing the vendors, seeing what's happening, what's new in the industry, what they can implement for different things in their business from the vendors, but then also bringing everybody together so they can, network. So the last couple of years, especially this year, I made sure that I've had networking each and every night. So it gives the opportunity to perfect, combination of learning, but also networking. So each year it changes a little bit, but I love doing this, and I love hearing back testimonies of how it helps contractors succeed.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. So fostering the networking and the collaboration, among the participants, both during, the event. So give us an example of the networking events that you have going on.
Yeah, so I like to, as I mentioned, I like to change it up each year a little bit. So it's January 9th through 11th, Frisco, Texas Convention Center. It's a fun area, about 20 minutes from DFW International. So it's a really easy place to get to from anywhere in the U.S. So we got lots of contractors coming from all over. January 9th is kind of just a laid back day. It's an opportunity to get to know everybody right away so you can start building relationships throughout the event. January 9th, we have a few specialized workshop sessions. So it's kind of pick and choose what you want to go to. And then the vendor floor opens up at noon till 6. And then we have a welcome mixer the very first day, 4 to 6. So everybody can get to know each other right away. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go for it.
The main stage is 10th and 11th. And we have some amazing speakers. This year on the 10th, I not only just do the networking just for VIPs, a lot of conferences like to do that. I'm doing it for everybody. So if you have a ticket to the event, you can come to the whole big SRC get together afterwards. And then some of the vendors are included too, a few per vendor. So I bring everybody together. I've actually run it out main event in Frisco. It's going to be a lot of fun. I tried it this past year at a different venue where I had like the bowling, different games, and I didn't know how people would react if they'd actually used the different things. And it was kind of fun because it felt like everybody was like a kid in a candy store, and everybody just hung out. They bowled, they did some of the laser tag, all the fun games. So it's at a different venue this year, but we're doing the same thing on the 10th, and everybody who has a ticket's invited.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I know some of the speakers, all of the speakers actually in the panels and stuff, range from, you got John Sinek, you got David Carson, Deshaun Bryant, Ron Rice, Erico, Roofers in Recovery, as far as keynote speakers go. And then your panels on the sales and industry experts and women's leadership panel, and then the Steve Badger panel, which I think is becoming a thing here. I think I just saw Tim Brown do something recently too. So that should be pretty interesting. So in terms of your content and speakers, how do you decide and or select the topics that are most relevant and beneficial for your conference?
Well, just being in the industry, paying attention to what's going on. For years, there's, people like for the whole Steve Badger one, I like an opportunity to bring people together to answer some questions that are really good questions for him, but also be able to answer it. So it's not like a battle on stage. It's not any type of a debate. It's real contractors, real PAs asking real questions that we want to get the answers to. So what better to do than to bring them on stage and handle this? And I did it for the first time last year, and it was very well received. And so I'm bringing it back. There's, I believe there's a couple different speakers on there as well. And so it just really opens up for the industry to get those specific questions answered. And it's a good, dialogue. So I'm excited about that one. The other one that's really new this year is the sales panel. That's going to be kicking off on the 9th. And usually SRC is too big to do like the Q&A sessions. It's hard to do that from the main stage. So we have this set up as a specialized workshop session on the nights at 3 p.m. And so I'm actually like being able to allow the Q&A during it. So any type of sales professional you have questions for, the experts up there, you're going to be able to ask them. So I'm excited about that one. Of course, we have like over 40 speakers. So it's going to be an awesome event.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, and I know years past, I think this might be our third or fourth year coming. I know Glenn and I came down several years ago. We met you, your now today husband, met him for the first time. Got to know you guys. Jen Silver actually met her for the first time too at that event. That might have been 3 years ago when we went down there. And I know, what's that?
2022.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was good. That was in Texas too. I don't remember. Was that Austin
No,
or
it's all the
what
DFW
was-
Metroplex
yeah.
area.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's a cool town. I missed the um was it the Brazilian steakhouse that was down there?
Yeah.
And I think they were closed on Sunday, so Glenn and I were totally bummed out about that. But but yeah, no, that was a good one. Like I said, I got to meet you guys, and it was great. I love how you have things kind of broken out, and it's very unique, like the networking, and then the way that you have things set up, especially on the floor. I know last year for us, the venue was a great venue. We didn't have to deal with like the people on the docks, the unions and stuff on the docks. That's usually a big nightmare for us. Now we've learned the rules, so we've been able to learn how to play the game a little better with the unions and stuff. But it's always a breath of fresh air to come to one of your events, because the way that you manage it and the way that you handle it and present it to all of us, it's in such a professional manner. You can tell this isn't your first rodeo. And it's not, and this isn't negative, but it's not like an IRE where there's just too much going on. It's hard to network, like you've mentioned so many times, because where Glenn and I had, when we went our first time to your event, we had brought home so much that we've been able to implement and still implement today. So touching on that a little bit, do you have any success stories from contractors that you've heard, whether it was last year or years previous, that you would like to share with us?
Oh gosh, there's a ton of testimonials. I always hear back from contractors and attendees, whether, the BPAs that attend as well, and other vendors that, go to the show. I even have adjusters that attend this show. It's pretty interesting because they always do tell me they learn a lot from the speakers, but they also learn a lot from each other. And so that's what the magic of networking is. And so this past year, I remember when we had it in Denton, one of the contractors came up to me. It was his first time at SRC Summit. And he just came to me. He's like, thank you so much for inviting me and all the emails that went out. He's like, I'm so glad I attended. He said, I've learned so much already, but the biggest thing that I've learned so far is just like, I've been networking with other contractors, and I met this one guy, and he told me that he got a better deal from his supplier. So I don't remember all the details, but long story short, he called up his rep or something. He said, with the volume that I'm doing right now, he's like, I saved $100,000 going into the next year. So he was super excited, right? So it's not always about like, hey, you're going to learn from the speakers. It's about the networking and learning from each other. So I like to put those two together. For
sure. Networking is probably where I learned some of the stuff. Plus, there's a saying, it's your network is your net worth. So it's, it's the sum of those that you surround yourself with, and the relationships that are built at conventions, especially ones like yours that are a little more, I want to say, intimate. And again, I'm not saying that in a negative light. You've honed it in, and I feel like that you've done such a great job of between vetting and selecting your speakers, selecting the topics that are most relevant to the industry. And it seems like no one's really there to like pitch you on anything. It's like very educational and very informative, which says a lot about you and why you do this. So let's talk about a little bit of like what inspired you to want to do this. Did you see a space or a gap that needed to be filled in our industry?
Yeah. So when I started this years ago, I do have the construction background. My parents built custom-built hubs when I was growing up. I built a few myself afterwards, but I did start my first roofing and construction company in college. And so that was like learning as you go, right? I worked a few different storms. Long story short is just my business partner and I at the time, we saw there was a huge need for a standardized training in the industry, and it didn't exist. And so we're like, you're dealing with homeowners and, business owners, and, you're restoring, their biggest asset, unless they're a multi-millionaire or something, yachts and stuff. Your home, your business that you own is your biggest asset. So there's a lot of training that needs to be involved in order to replace all that and make sure you do a good job. So we started the industry's first insurance restoration sales training back in 2011. And then it just started to grow from there. And, I started in Texas, and I thought, wow, this is going to be obviously my target market. There's a ton of roofing contractors here. But the thoughts and the way that people looked at training back then has changed completely to today. It was like, we don't need training. It's never been done before. We learned from somebody else, ride in a car with Joe, for 3 days, and there you go, you're trained.
Mhm.
And so it was like a mind shift change during that time. Contractors would sit and they wouldn't want to share anything for the longest time. But once we got them to open up, they learned that, oh my gosh, we can actually learn from one another and we can help each other. Right.
Mhm.
So then that moved into other things that I just saw like a huge need in the industry, overhead and profit. So it's been a hot button topic. And then just with talking with them, on a daily basis, I just found out so many, hot button topics and points that needed to be addressed in the industry. So I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no conference for storm restoration, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start it back in 2013. And it started as a 1 day and it moved to a 3 day and it just kept growing and growing. So after a short amount of time, there was contractors, flying in from all over. So I knew it was a scalable business and it was something that was needed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you do such a great job at it. And this is what's crazy is that as humble of a person that you are, April, whether you know it or not, most you have more experience in our industry than most men do that are in our industry. And I'm not saying that because you're a woman, but I just wanted to point that out to people that, you've been in this, whether because I've heard your story this time last year, you were actually on our podcast and through a previous marriage, you and your husband had owned a business and then you've owned a business and then you started this. I mean, you've been around the industry almost as long as I have been.
Yeah, it's been a
really
long time.
going. Yeah, it's been, yeah, for sure. And again, that's a true testament to what type of person you are, because you're not throwing that out there to like let everybody know or poking them in the chest like, hey, buddy, I got more talent in my one small finger here when you really do. And it's definitely obvious, when you attend one of your events. So over the years, what do you think one of your biggest challenges have been hosting a conference that is so successful as yours and to keep it going as long as you have?
Ever since I started, it was great when I started. I was the only one doing it, right? And so there's so many different ones that you can choose from, right? They're like, oh, everybody has a roofing conference, or now everybody's a guru, right? So it's completely changed. And so they don't know you. It's kind of like, oh, well, which one am I going to pick? And I think probably one of the biggest challenges for me is that, like, when I ask somebody to be on stage and speak, another conference will look at them and be like, can you speak on my stage too? And then from an attendee perspective, they're like, oh, it's the same conference. And, there's really not much you can do about it. We're going to have a little crossover. That's fine. But each and every conference is different. And so I do change it up quite a bit. But yeah, it's been a little bit different. Like there's a roofing conference popping up everywhere now. And then you kind of, after a while, you get lost in it, like, oh, it's just another conference, right? And you always hear, oh, it's conference season. So yeah, you just got to look at what you want to get out of the event, right? We'll go into it with a goal in mind. Hey, if I go to something, what are some takeaways that I'm going to look at getting, and just have that set up before you go. And then, meet your expectations by going, but research the person who's doing it. Look at the speakers, look at what type of events they have going on, be my best, advice for picking one. There's a lot of great ones out there now.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. And I think a lot of people try to, follow your example as well as far as hosting such a quality. It's not about quantity. You're more focused on the quality of it, and to keep that in mind. Like you said, the speakers, it's the same speaker time and time again. And that's something, even as far as something as small as our podcast, we try not to throw out the same content week after week after week after week after week. Now, is there some redundancy? Of course there are. Sometimes people have to hear things time and time again anyhow before they pick up what you're putting down anyhow, so it doesn't really hurt. But I used to get hemmed up on that too. It's like, God, we talk about leadership every single week and about the person, and it seems like the stories tend to be the same, and that's kind of like why we do the way we do it. Is it's kind of live, raw, and uncut, so then we can go down whatever rabbit hole we decide to go down. And then some are very intentional like this. SRC is coming up. April Hall. She's a freaking rock star in our industry. Let's get her on the show the week before, and it works out perfect. One, to try to help you get out there. Two, we're sharing each other's stages right now, I guess, virtual stages. And of course, I'd like to gather your following, and hopefully you'll gather my following, and we can collaborate, and then we can kick ass and take names next week at the show together as we're going live and interviewing people and bringing you on, and you and your husband, if you guys want to come on, I'm sure, because we'll actually be going live Wednesday at noon from Frisco, Texas, from the convention center there next Wednesday. So that'll be interesting too. But anyhow, finally, okay, so looking forward or looking ahead to the future, where do you see the roofing industry heading, and what do you envision your conference evolving? How do you see your conference evolving in response to those changes?
Oh, there's a lot of changes that are happening in the industry. Kind of touched on a couple of years ago. Things are changing like a lot. You have to go to conferences to stay up on what is happening. We're going to be launching a new product too on stage on the 10th in the morning. So I'm excited about that. But before I get to that, even like the right to repair, that was been instituted in Florida. And, I can see that happening in a lot of other states with insurance companies. And it's not only just, hey, you have to pick a contractor. I've heard that they've gone down to, hey, they're actually choosing their own labor now. So if you're not part of like MRPs, things like that, it's just going to change a lot. It's going to progress. I mean, insurance companies of course, they're getting harder and harder to work with, and so on and so forth. So the industry is just going to get a little bit more tough. So you gotta pivot. We talked about that a little bit last year. And with Dave and I and our team, we started doing other type of claims that have a very high ROI. We started doing smoke claims from fires because David Carlson, my husband, who's the co-founder of EagleView, created another technology software that can actually track where smoke goes from forest fires, any type of fires, and it travels very, very far. When it gets in your home, it causes a lot of damage, and it's very bad for your health. So we clean it. This year, we have something else, a new product that's going to be starting. We're going to talk to some manufacturers about getting it put into some roofing products, but essentially what it is it prevents fires from happening. So it's a specific fire retardant. So we were cleaning it up before, but now we're working on preventing them. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're launching that SRC next week.
Nice. I love that. I knew you guys were working on, what was it called? Ash.
Yeah. Ash.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I remembered it. Ash. That's one of my favorite words. You ass.
Right.
But okay. So let's switch gears here a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about, personal stuff. It is at the beginning of the year here. And I think a lot of people get hemmed up on adding more shit to their plate, as goals. Let's create all these goals and let's add more shit to our chaos of our lives. So for me personally, I think I'm going into it as what can I remove opposed to what goals can I add. So I guess my goal would be, what could I remove, whether it be negative people, whether it be a process that no longer works, but we continue to keep trying to force it to work or anything like that. What would you say? What would be a goal for you, or something that you think that you might need to remove from your life because it's a negative, and you would prefer to start adding more positive stuff to your life?
The busy work that I take on myself. Like I kind of perfectionist with certain things. Instead of delegating things that are pretty easy, I kind of tend to do that myself. So it was like, that was one of my goals. Like, hey, you need to stop that because, I really realized it's like, and I've known this for a long time, but family is so important. And I just want to spend more time with my family this year. So just experienced a horrible loss, and I'm going to try not to cry. My ex-husband passed, and so I had to tell my son about that, and his funeral is this Saturday. So I've been trying to keep it together, and thank God SRC is keeping me really busy, but it really makes you step back and reassess some things. So I haven't had a lot of downtime to reassess the goals that I want to do for 2024 because I've been dealing with that. But it's going to be number one is family time, and not being so busy to where I have to say I need to work and I'm not going to spend time with family.
I love that. So how do you plan on balancing your professional and your professional and your personal aspirations and achievements?
Hire more people.
Hire smarter people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, simple answer, but very impactful. Believe me. So, who would you say some of your mentors or role models have influenced you in your personal and professional life?
Oh gosh, role models. I've always looked up, my dad's a builder. My parents have worked together their entire lives. So I've always known them as, hey, they're entrepreneurs. I've grown up in the building industry. So when I went to college, I kind of wanted to figure out how I could start my own business. And I think my dad was like, oh, just get a job. It's so hard. I was like, no, that's not what I know. So I've always looked up to them as, hey, that's what they've done. I want to do that and be better. Of course, Jesus, as a role model in my life, very big on going to church and surrounding my family with that, and helps get me through everything in life.
Yeah, most definitely. I lean on him too. So don't be ashamed of that.
Never.
No shame to my game when it comes to him. Is there any books or podcasts or anything like that you listen to or get sucked into, even if it's just for pleasure or not necessarily, learning or educational?
Yeah, so I've liked a lot of Brian Tracy's books. Got to know him a few years ago. He's actually keynoted the SRC Summit a couple times, and then I went on to I took one of his training courses and got certified to do a sales training. He's an excellent sales presenter, sales trainer, and so I'd like to read some of his books and learn
Awesome.
from him and implement those things.
Okay. Well, how has that impacted your life?
It's just made me a better salesperson.
Right. You definitely are a good salesperson. No,
Thanks.
I'm just kidding. But no, you are. You definitely are. You definitely are. So how do you stay motivated and focused on your personal goals, especially during times of adversity and setbacks? Like right now, you mentioned something. So how are you staying motivated? What are you doing to keep
I know
yourself?
that there's a lot of people counting on me, so that makes me push through to make sure that I'll make sure that everybody gets what they signed up for, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, I like to deliver, everything, if it's promised, I want to make sure that I deliver it and do an excellent job at it. So I've got a lot of people that, I need to take care of. And so this is very busy. So it keeps me busy and motivated, right?
Right on. I feel that. I feel that. So, reviewing last year, what would you tell your last year self today, if you could have?
That's a great question. I would probably tell myself not to be so hard on myself. I'm my worst critic because like anything that I do, even if it's like perfect and everybody loves it, I'm always like, oh, I could have done that better. So I think I just need to step back and be satisfied with goals that I've achieved and just look to grow every year. But yeah, I'm very hard on myself.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I am my own worst critic at times, and it's funny because I think a lot of people look at us, as the leaders. We're the leaders, entrepreneurs, and stuff like that. That we're tough as nails, and we have to portray that at a lot of times, even when we're not at our best. We still have to perform at least at 70%, right? Which is usually better than most people's 100%. But but we have to suit up, we have to show up, and like you mentioned earlier, it's like there's so many people, families, whatever our family that rely on us, and we don't have that luxury, to hide under the covers for the day or call in sick,
No.
or just not deal with it, as much as we want to say to ourselves, I just can't deal with this today. Unfortunately, we signed up for this, and we have to deal with this. And
Show up.
and like, right. And like you said, not to take yourself so serious, right? And I think sometimes because we feel like we're in the spotlight and we have to do everything perfect, that we're so hard on ourselves to critique ourselves and pick ourselves apart. Does my hair look nice? Did I sound stupid? All those crazy things that go through our head, or, especially doing the podcast. Did I say too many ums, ands? And you know what? I made a decision. It was probably about a week ago because I felt like I was procrastinating too much, and I wasn't casting the vision soon enough for the team for 2024. And I thought to myself, who gives a shit if
Right.
it's January 1st or August 22nd?
Mhm.
We've pivoted. It didn't matter what time of year. what day it was, and all this big hubbub over the new year. You know what's crazy? We get to wake up every single day to a new day
Yes.
and get to decide if we're going to change, make a difference, have impact, be an influence on somebody. And this leads into something. I had one of our sales managers actually text me. I don't know, it was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. He texted me and he texted me and he said, "Can I borrow some of your time later?" And I fired right back. I was like, "Are you going to be able to give it back?" And it occurred to me of, time is something that we can't give back. And how much time have I stolen from people? And how much time have I stolen from myself, right? Doing mindless things, whether it be scrolling on Facebook, surrounding myself around negative people. That's time that I'm not going to be able to give back. So moving forward into 2024, I'm going to try not to steal people's time. And if I do borrow some of their time, I want it to be as impactful as I possibly can be, and as meaningful and as thoughtful. I actually wrote that down: being thoughtful, being intentional, and being emotionally present. Because I can be in a room having a conversation with somebody and I'm doing this, but I don't hear a goddamn word you're saying to me. And I have to stop. I have to learn how to be more present, more thoughtful. We have Amanda, who handles all kinds of stuff here for us. And she is like our chief energy officer. I actually put the CEO in my signature, January 1st. I think it was just a couple of days. I put CEO in my signature, and it's my job to create other CEOs within our organization or wherever I am at SRC. I am going to, my purpose of going to SRC is to create more CEOs, and that's chief energy officers, because I'm going to be so full of energy when I'm down there that you can't help that but to be energetic around me, because it's going to be that contagious.
Yes.
I'm going to be just, you know what I mean? Like, screw the negative stuff, screw the negative thoughts, forget the anxiety, the self-inflicted stress that I put on myself. It's like, we've made it here. My life is exactly the way it is that I prayed for 5 years ago. Right. So I prayed for this 5 years ago. So here I'm going to fill myself up with all this anxiousness, this anxiety, neurosis. I'm a very neurotic person, but I think that's why I get shit done. So I try to use that to my advantage at times. But yeah, that's my goal for 2024.
I love
Is
it.
not to steal people's time, but to give value to that time that I'm borrowing from that individual or group of people. So on that note, is there a golden nugget that you would like to leave our viewers with? Because we are at that 30-minute mark, and I know you're a busy woman, and I don't want to hold you hostage much longer, because I will see you in a week and I'll get your butt back on here. And we'll talk about how it's going.
Well, first, I want to say I like what you just said. That's awesome. The chief energy officer. That's great. Because when you were at SRC last year, there was so much energy there, and it was so fun, and everybody loved being there. So you brought a great dynamic. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. You're coming back. You got the best spot. You're going to bring a lot of energy, and it just livens everybody up. So when you project that out, other people are like that around you, and you have a good time, right? And so, yeah, and time is very important. That's one thing I couldn't agree with you more is time, right? You got to spend it wisely, right? You want to spend it around good people who are going to be positive around you, because you spend it with something negative, a negative situation, or negative people, you can't get that back, and it feels awful, right? And so, I don't know. What do I want to leave people with? It's a new year. It's a new chapter. Like you said, every day when you wake up, it's a new day. I'm thankful for the breath in my lungs every day. I wake up, say a prayer, and I start my day. When I go to bed, I say a prayer. I would just be people like, hey, be happy to be alive, right? Be thankful each and every day. When you show gratitude and thankfulness, your life changes. You become much more positive. You're better energy, and people can sense that around you. So
For sure. I like that. People have two wolves in them. They have a negative wolf and they have a positive wolf. And today we choose to feed the positive wolf.
yes.
That's right. That's right. Well, April, thank you. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you and your team down in Frisco, Texas. I am having issues with the word Texas today.
Texas, y'all, right?
Well, that's right. That's right. That's right. But
Well, awesome. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me on the show. And I can't wait to see you next week. We're going to have an awesome time at SRC.
Yes. Yep. Look forward to it. Thank you guys for everybody for watching again this week. Don't forget to like, love, share, comment, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Play, YouTube, and obviously Facebook. And follow April Hall. What's the best way someone can get a hold of you, April? Or follow? What's your handle?
SRC.com, April Hall on Facebook. On Instagram, it's at SRC Summit. Let's see, LinkedIn. I think it's April M. Hall. Let me check real quick. I like LinkedIn. I don't think enough people use LinkedIn. Why don't here's my advice. Get on LinkedIn.
There you go. I like it too. It's a different vibe and different culture, I think.
Yeah, it's April M. Hall on LinkedIn. So you should be able to find it. But yeah, I really like LinkedIn. Facebook is SRC Summit and IG at SRC Summit. But yeah, so if I leave one thing, roofers, go to LinkedIn.
There you go. Awesome. Well, April, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Thank you for everyone for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye-bye.